This is Food Safety First with your host, Ryan Ramdass.
Welcome back, food safety enthusiasts, to another episode of Food Safety First. I'm your host, Ryan Ramdass. Today we're shining a light on something critical in food inspection to ensure we don't have any unexpected metal contaminants in our product: training, or lack thereof. Our expert joining us today is Victor Cartuajano, here to break down why it's essential to train on and maintain your metal inspection systems to ensure they're performing optimally. Welcome to the show, Victor. Thank you for joining us. So tell us, how long have you been in the food inspection industry?
I've been in this industry for over 15 years now. I first started out as a field service technician, and then eventually I transitioned into the sales department.
Can you explain the fundamental role of metal detection systems in ensuring food safety and why it's crucial for personnel to be well trained for their operation?
Sure. The metal detector's role is to inspect products individually to make sure that nothing gives off a signal of a metal. So say, for example, in a factory, because there's lots of machines and a lot of moving parts, nuts and bolts might fall into your product and then end up at the final customer, which is a big no-no. Having well-trained operators is very, very crucial because not only does it make sure everybody's safe, but it also makes sure your product is also not contaminated, and you don't want to waste any products with too many false rejects.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what are some of the common types of metal detection systems used in the food industry, and how do they differ in terms of sensitivity and application?
Usually, most factories run off conveyors, but depending on what the product is, we want to inspect the product at its smallest size. So if we can, say, for example, look at jam or a liquid in a pipeline, we'd want to inspect it there rather than the final product, which is much bigger and looks for bigger metals.
So, Victor, in previous episodes of our podcast, we've talked about metal detection systems, their operation and function, but we never really dove into the human element, the operator, the personnel using the equipment. Are you able to share some examples or stories where lack of training or knowledge of how to use the metal detector has caused a food inspection issue or real-world impact?
Yes, in my field service experience, I've noticed this happen a lot of times where an operator thinks they're testing properly, they remove the metal from the product, and they don't test the reject device's timing. And sometimes, for example, lack of air or the belt stops too late and allows the contaminated product to go to the next line. A lot of human error can happen, and that's why it's very important to have personnel trained, maybe a refresher once every month.
So, Vic, what would you say to the customers of the sites that say they don't have time to do maintenance or they don't have time to do the daily checks?
I would say be careful, you're at risk. Safety is a really big concern. It should be your number one priority. If you don't do these checks, someone's going to get hurt, and then that's when people react afterwards.
So what are some suggestions that you would give to maintenance personnel on what they should be looking for when maintaining their equipment?
They should look for any signs of wear and tear. Also, they should be trained on how to change any of the spare parts for the metal detector, especially if your metal detector is a CCP. If that breaks down, you don't want to have your production line stopped. You want to be able to have your maintenance personnel, some sort of champion that knows how to change the parts, set up the programs, and get production up and running again.
Now, looking at the bigger picture, how can food manufacturers implement effective training programs for their personnel regarding maintenance and use of their equipment?
In my experience, I would recommend monthly training and even reviewing the system every week. Wouldn't hurt to look around and say, hey, is my reject device activating properly? Are my test samples being detected at a proper signal? Preventative maintenance is very key. Another thing we've noticed is there's been a lot of changeover in personnel, and training has to be done again and again. What I recommend is on a weekly basis, review what's going on in the production line and make sure the operators feel comfortable, especially for the new hires.
It's good to know. Now, we know the industry is constantly evolving. How important is it for personnel to undergo continuous training to stay updated in the latest advancements in the technology within the industry?
Training can be done in multiple ways. Not only is it good to do the hourly checks, making sure the operators are using the metal detectors properly, But maintenance can also be proactive and speak with the manufacturer. Say, hey, is there anything new with the metal detectors? Is there new technology? Is there something we can be using a lot better that we currently aren't? And listen to the experts and see what they recommend.
So, in your experience, where do you think is the best spot for training?
Usually there's two options, but both of them involve sending an expert to the facility. One could be in a classroom setup where you can discuss as a group, learn how the metal detector is being tested and if everything is working properly. The second location would be right at the production line. The operators get hands-on training and can understand the metal detector more rather than in a classroom setup where they don't even see the metal detector.
So, what advice would you give a food manufacturer that's currently trying to source new equipment?
The first thing I would recommend is to make sure that the equipment is easy enough to use. You don't want your operators to struggle in the production line and then thinking that they know something and then causing a mistake. Another thing you want to look out for is to make sure that your manufacturer can actually offer after-sales service. Make sure that, hey, if there's a breakdown, can I fix my line really quickly or will I get the support that I need? In addition, it's important to seek out training and invest in your own employees, making sure that they know how to use the machines properly.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for this valuable information, Victor. This wraps up this episode of Food Safety First. We explored the critical role that personnel play in the proper use and maintenance of their equipment. Shameless plug for Fortress Technology. Feel free to reach out to service@fortresstechnology.com if you're looking for further training or service needs. Once again, huge thank you to our guests. Thank you for sharing your valuable insights. As always, stay tuned for more discussions and keeping our food safe and secure. Until next time, this is Ryan, signing off.